Talk about something AI cannot do, and that's being a classmate. It can suggest, it can summarize, it can even simulate a conversation. But what it cannot do is see a student across the table, listen to an unfinished idea, and say, hey, that's interesting, keep going. And yet, right now, we are watching student work become increasingly isolated. AI has turned writing and research into solo acts. There is no longer any discussion, collaboration, or peer feedback. It is just a student, a screen, and a machine. We cannot let that become the new normal because some of the best thinking that students do does not happen before they type. It happens before they believe, before they're confident, and before they've made up their minds. It happens in the moment when they say something out loud and someone else pushes them to go further. That's what collaboration creates, and that's what we have to protect. This episode is about bringing back peer to peer learning, but not by pretending AI doesn't exist. Instead, we're going to redesign collaborative work to live alongside AI, to build in spaces where students are still required to think together, respond to each other, and stay accountable for their process. Because if all your students are doing is prompting, copying, editing, and submitting, you'll never see the struggle. You will never see the spark, and you will never see the growth. But if they have to talk it out with one another or another human, you get to see everything. So let's look at how we do that. We start by shifting the question. In an AI integrated classroom, we don't just ask, what did you write? We ask, what did you decide to write? And what did someone else help you realize along the way? That's the first shift. Here's the second. We don't collaborate at the end, we build it in at the start. We will begin with co-prompting for depth. Before any student writes, they should partner up to co-create AI prompts. Let's say they're about to write a narrative. Instead of starting solo, they do this instead. Partner A says, here's my story idea. Partner B asks, what kind of conflict are you imagining? Or, what would you want the reader to feel? Then together, they draft an AI prompt like, give me 5 different ways to open a story that deals with fear and uncertainty. What's a creative setting where a character might be tested emotionally? After generating outputs, each student reflects which response felt right, which one felt cliche or overdone, what do I want to explore that AI didn't offer. Now they've both engaged in meaningful dialogue before anything was even written. They're thinking together, but still retaining creative control. The second part is peer storyboarding and structure checks. So before students write full drafts, they should share their outlines or idea maps with a partner. The peer's role is not to edit, it's to challenge assumptions and ask questions like, why is this character doing that? What's the emotional arc of this scene? What do you want the reader to feel? And how will you make them feel it? This phase forces clarity because when students have to explain their plan to someone else, they often discover what's missing. It also makes it harder to fake later. If they submit a story that doesn't match the structure they shared, then you will know. The next phase is a think-aloud feedback session. Instead of written peer edits, have students do live 5-minute think-alouds. One student reads a passage aloud. The partner responds not with corrections but curiosity. Why did you choose that image? What do you want the reader to wonder right there? Where did AI help and where did you take control? Students can then revise, but they must include a note. Here's what I changed based on our conversation, and a short reflection. Here's where my thinking deepened because of feedback. Now you're assessing not just the draft, but the thinking that happened around it. This phase is the final submission and shared accountability. Here is where we close the loop. When students turn in their work, they include their original AI prompt, a reflection on what they accepted or rejected from the AI, a summary of the peer dialogue that influenced their choices, and a personal statement. Here's the part of this piece I'm most proud of and why. That's a final product AI cannot fake. And here's what it does for you. It gives you insight into student intent. It gives you evidence of growth, and it creates accountability. If a student ghostwrites with AI, it will be painfully obvious that they did not do the thinking or the talking. Now, let's talk rubrics and assessment. In collaborative AI integrated work, you are going to score for depth of student thinking, use of peer dialogue to enhance ideas, ethical and intentional use of AI, presence of voice, revision, and process transparency. This is how we build learning that's social and not transactional. This is how we say AI can help, but your thinking, your voice, and your willingness to respond to others still matter more than ever. Shift requires a transformation from us. We must stop thinking of writing as a private act. We must make space for process in public. We must let students wrestle out loud, listen with care, and disagree with clarity. Because that's the kind of learning that doesn't just survive in the AI era, it thrives in it. If we want students to own their thinking, we have to help them do it together. AI cannot replace collaboration. It cannot laugh, push, nudge, or encourage. Only people can do that. Only you can design for that. In future episodes, we will take this further and explore how to use AI and multimedia to redesign presentations, speeches, and personal storytelling projects that amplify student voice and keep AI in the background where it belongs. If you're ready to bring back the human connection in your classrooms, subscribe to this channel. Let's continue to build together.